Oh, so sorry. These, those are nothing. I was just, do you come here often? You come here often? This is your house. This is your home. Oh, well, it's lovely, just like you. What am I doing here? I just switched your laundry over for you. Yeah, use some of your toothpaste, but, tastes great. I don't know what's going on. Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. Call me Chris the Stalker. You could call me Chris the Stalker. Just kidding, please don't. And today we are talking about just that. Specifically the new Netflix original series, Baby Reindeer. When I first stumbled across this show, I just thought it'd be kind of like a fun, easy watch, but it turned out to be pretty traumatizing, to be honest, but also really interesting. And then it's just gotten even crazier with the fact that it is a true story, and the fact that the stalker herself has come out and gone on to Piers Morgan to refute the entire show. So let's get into what the show is, what it's about, and then let's get into who this chick is and who this whole story is about. Oh my god, I forgot to tell you the great news. And it's delicious just like you, you're gonna love it. Sour Boys, Caleb and I's 100% owned small candy company, is gonna be constantly in stock. So it is available up on the site. Right now I'm loving the Twister Tang. I can't keep it out of my mouth. It's crazy. It really is good though. Give me a second. And there were so many other flavors. And for those of you who don't know, like I said, Caleb and I own 100% of the company. We make it ourselves where we live in Texas. We ship it out ourselves. It is not white labeled like every other product out there. We're very, very proud of it, and we're so pumped that you guys love it. And we're gonna constantly have new flavors for you guys. And you guys can have a 10% off discount code. It is Chris. If you go to sour.gg, just put that code in, you get 10% off. And if you have orders over $45, you get free shipping. So it's pretty sweet. Really love that you guys love the candy. And if you haven't tried it, I hope you love it just as much as we do. We work really, really hard on it, and we're pumped to give you guys more and more candy as time goes on. So hop on the email list if you want to know any updates. And if you're a part of my Patreon at patreon.com/callmechris, you can get 20% off with that link. So join the Patreon if you want. Okay, back to the video. So true crime miniseries are becoming ever more prominent online these days. Whether it be the result of vast amount of true crime podcasts pumping out more content than you could possibly digest, the genre is absolutely flourishing, hence why I post true crime content. But we're seeing more unique and interesting takes on these retellings of true events that have grabbed the internet by the balls, by the scrotum. Can you grab the scrotum? I don't really know. And giving them a nice tug. For reference of how many miniseries are coming out recently, Rotten Tomatoes has a top 50 list. And of them, more than 30 of them have come out since 2019. And because of the sheer volume of these series, it's kind of easy to miss the ones that are worth watching. But Baby Reindeer, in my opinion, is definitely one of them. For those of you who don't know, Baby Reindeer is the latest series that seeks to retell the story of a woman who would become obsessed with and stalk a man with some absolutely insane details that need to be seen to be believed. Baby Reindeer is one of Netflix's newest original miniseries, detailing the story of specifically Donnie Dunn. And Donnie appears to just be a regular guy, just working at a bar while trying to pursue his dream of becoming a stand-up comedian. Same dude. Just kidding. However, as soon as he meets a woman named Martha at the bar, his life begins to spiral out of control. So when Donnie first saw Martha walk into the bar, he saw a woman that was down on her luck, clearly troubled about something, and ended up giving her a cup of tea, a cuppa, if you will, on the house because she had no money, which would just be the launching point for all the events that would transpire over the next few years. So moral of the story is don't give out free cups of tea, I guess. But after this act of kindness, Martha would repeatedly show up at the bar every time Donnie was working. Every day, in fact. But at this point, she was just a regular at the bar. It wasn't that alarming yet, and they would actually start to build up a friendship with the frequent conversations that they would have. And it's important to note that Donnie really wasn't the kind of guy to make these kind of relationships quickly. He wasn't very charming. Despite him being a stand-up comedian, he actually struggled with that. So when Martha came into the picture, he just took advantage of that, and it felt good to be able to make somebody laugh like he did, because he made her laugh. My God. Because that's what Donnie wanted to do. His whole life, he just wanted to make people laugh, and Martha did that. So she was like fueling something in him, and he was kind of just doing this to all the red flags that happened in the future. So Martha quickly would become obsessed with Donnie, and he likewise would develop a very toxic attachment to Martha. But Martha wanted to be more than friends with Donnie, and Donnie just wanted to remain friends. But Martha would strategically involve herself in his life by just showing up to the bar more than once a day, trying to involve herself in his life more and more as time went on. She'd become a clingy, toxic bitch, okay? And Donnie, at this point, feeling slightly uncomfortable, would let Martha do this because he would kind of just feel bad for her, and also would be fueled by the fact that he made her laugh on a constant basis. But like I said, Donnie was not interested in Martha. In fact, he was secretly dating a trans woman named Terry. And this is kind of where the lines would become blurred for Martha and Donnie. When Martha went to the bar one time, she was talking about how she bought a new property and that it was fully furnished, but she just needed to hang her curtains. Don't like that, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. And there was plenty of people around at this time. Donnie worked with a bunch of other guys, so they were all kind of joking around with her. And since Donnie was in a secret relationship with a trans woman at the time because he wasn't ready to come out with that relationship, he played along with Martha and the guys' joke, basically. And he would tell Martha, "I'll hang your curtains." He said it better. And he would say this in a joking manner, though, causing everyone in the bar to laugh. Except for Martha. Martha would take it extremely seriously and literally, and Donnie's joke would just cause her to become extremely more obsessed and creepy. This is when she would actually become a stalker, sending him thousands of really weird emails, waiting for him at the bus stop outside of his house, showing up at his comedy shows unannounced. And despite what Donnie would tell her, just really trying to make her just a friend, she would just hear what she wanted to hear and believe what she wanted to believe. Donnie could literally just be completely transparent, saying, "I just want to be friends with you," and he doesn't have feelings for her, but it would get twisted in her head and she would be like a really sick game to her. There would be this really creepy scene where they're in like a back alley kind of place together and he's telling her that he doesn't like her and she just plays tag with him after that, like really creepily. And he's just like, "Martha, stop." And she's like, "Tag! Tag!" Like, bitch, I would have knocked that bitch in the water. There was a body of water beside them. And then she would go on to, instead of tag him for like the 85th time, she would grab him by the you-know-what, and he would just freeze because he didn't know what the was going on and wouldn't do anything. So at this point, she's believing that they're in a relationship because of the way that Donnie's acting, not necessarily because of the way he's acting, but the lack of being extremely serious or going to the police or doing that and like letting her do certain things. Meanwhile, Donnie just wanted her to be a friend, or just at this point not really want her in his life at all. It's a very weird, blurred line. And he gets called out in the show from his ex-girlfriend and from his ex-girlfriend mom that this is kind of a repeat characteristic of Donnie. And it's just kind of sad. But Martha would continue to stalk and yell obscenities at him in like the street when he was walking outside the bar, like heckling him at shows, or sitting outside his house yelling that he has a pig ugly girlfriend, referencing Terry. Because now Martha is going into crazy bitch stalker mode. But all while Donnie was still with his girlfriend Terry at the time, and when Martha found out about Terry, it was ugly. She would go on to brutally attack her, and this would be the first thing that would cause Donnie to finally go to the police to tell them about what Martha's been doing. And then after that incident, the police really didn't take it seriously because he didn't actually have proof. He wouldn't actually tell the police that Martha beat up Terry. He would just say that she's been sending him a lot of messages and emails, and they would kind of brush it off. So then he would just kind of go on about his life, just not thinking much of it. And partly I think this is because he kind of liked the attention, and not in like a bad way, but at this point in the show they do a massive pivot and they go back in time in Donnie's life and a new character enters into the show. It was a best friend slash brotherly figure to Donnie named Darion, a guy who pointed at being somewhat connected in the entertainment industry, which is the industry that Donnie has been trying to get into for years and years. So naturally, he was really eager to become friends with this guy. And Donnie would connect with Darion because Darion was super open and honest about his life. Darion was open about his sexuality, being gay, whereas Donnie at that point didn't really know what he was. He wasn't dating any trans women at this time or any men. He was only dating a woman at this time, so he had not experimented outside of that. So he didn't even think of it at that point. Darion was also very open about his drug use as well, which will come into play. But Darion promised to help Donnie in his stand-up, and he did, and Donnie started to become successful in that, and Darion and Donnie's relationship grew and grew through this specific episode, mid-season. But one of the ways in which Darion would help Donnie is that he would invite Donnie over to his place, and they would use copious amounts of drugs and write scripts while they were high. but each time Darion would get Donnie high, he would just keep giving him more and more, to the point where Donnie would get completely incapacitated. And Donnie would notice Darion's red flags, and he would notice that he would wake up incapacitated in Darion's apartment, but he wouldn't do anything about it because he kind of craves these toxic relationships and he wanted to move forward in the business, so he just kind of brushed it off, which again is very sad and very common in the industry as well. It's just to work your way up, these people take advantage of the smaller people and they don't know what's right and what's wrong and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, and that's kind of, it's very prevalent in this show, and it kind of struck a chord with me in certain scenarios I've been in this industry so far. And in general, with the stalking stuff as well, I've dealt with that during my time online and before my time online. So this whole show just kind of was poking me in a lot of places, all right? And that's partly why I wanted to make a video about it as well, because I think it's important, honestly. And I think it's very validating to a lot of people, especially men that have dealt with these types of situations. But anyway, Darion would, like I said, drug Donnie to the point of incapacitation, and then Donnie would start to become aware that when he was waking up, he was being fondled, and he would find, spit in places that he shouldn't, or semen in places that he shouldn't be, but he would continue to go to Darion's because he was finding success with him, or being promised success with him, but the success was never coming. So eventually at one point, Donnie would finally realize what Darion was doing and realize that it wasn't okay, and he would leave and never speak to Darion again. But this would spiral him into trying to figure out who he was. He would completely break down and realize that he doesn't know if he was gay or if he was straight or if he was something else completely altogether. So he kind of went off on this self-saboteur rampage, sleeping with kind of everybody and anybody that he could find. In my opinion, it was kind of almost like a form of trying to figure yourself out, but also a form of self-harm, because the episode's rough. The episode's a rough watch, but I think it's very important also, because I think a lot of people can relate to that with confusion with sexuality and going through that type of essay and feeling less than a human at that point, which you absolutely shouldn't. But then in the next episode, we jump forward to continue on where we were in episodes previous, where Donnie is continuing to do his comedy shows. He's continued to be stalked by Martha, who is going to his comedy shows and heckling him constantly at them as well. But at one of these comedy shows, Donnie would completely break down and just tell the audience everything, including about what Darion did to him in the past. He would talk about Martha and how he ignored her attachment for his need for constant attention. He would talk about his trans girlfriend Terry and how lovely she is and how he completely ruined it. He would just try to hide her constantly and try to come up with excuses not to go in public with her. He would say the only thing he loved more than her was hating himself, which is so deep and terrible, man. This show's up in kind of the best way. This breakdown of his details that prioritizes attention and fame over making the tough choices that he knew would be better for him. And he would keep kind of backtracking over to the incidents that happened with Darion, just wanting that taste of fame. Even after repeat abuses and assaults, he would just continue to keep going back because he was so hungry for it. But this breakdown would be recorded by someone in the audience and would be uploaded to YouTube and soon after go viral, leading to all kinds of opportunities for him. And during this time, he wouldn't hear much about Martha actually, but that would change when she called threatening to tell his family about the viral video of him talking about how he got raped by Darion and everything else he unloaded. But Donnie would decide to tell his parents before she could, and they were incredibly supportive of him. In fact, his dad would share too that he actually suffered from when he was younger by a member of the Catholic Church. But this wasn't the first time Martha had actually weaponized Donnie's parents. She would actually call them previously, saying that Donnie was in the hospital and other things of that nature, just trying to wreak havoc on his life at all times. And now at this time, Donnie had gone to the police, and now there was an ongoing case while Donnie was in this viral state and started to see success. And we would find out kind of mid-show that Martha was actually an incredibly well-known stalker and had previously done jail time. And this is kind of when Donnie would kind of make it click in his head, like, oh shit, this is like a real life thing. And this is when in further episodes, he would call back to that to the police to say, this is who's stalking me, and he would finally have that validity, and the police would believe him and start a proper case on her. But regardless of all this, the police weren't able to do a whole lot. Martha would be very compliant with them, knowing how to deal with police because she had previously dealt with police with her other stalking incidences. So Donnie would take it upon himself to incriminate her by going to her house, and he would tell her that he would agree to hang her curtains, a callback to one of the earlier episodes, if she leaves him alone after that. But he would tell her to put all that information in an email, everything that she would want to do to him in very explicit email, and to send it to him so he would know what to do later to her. But he wouldn't actually do that. He just wanted evidence for the police to look at to say, hey, see how crazy she is? But Martha, being the crazy bitch that she is, records every single conversation she's ever had with Donnie and would show that to police, making him look like the creep in this scenario. But the police, knowing Martha's past, would agree with him that they know that he was just trying to incriminate her so he wouldn't be charged. But Martha would finally go too far as to call Donnie and to threaten to stab someone, at which point she would finally be arrested and she wouldn't be seen again. But one of the things that's really beautiful about this show, in my opinion, is that the message behind it is that literally all these people in the show are troubled, broken, and have some sort of trauma in their past. And Donnie is perhaps equally as obsessed with Martha as she is with him. He'd been categorizing all her messages, trying to figure out what made her tick. And now that she's gone, he's still going through all of her messages. And the final scene in the show would be him breaking down at the bar as he listens to a voicemail that he had not yet listened to, talking about how she came to call him Baby Reindeer. She had a little toy reindeer as a kid that helped her get through a lot, and she keeps it even to this day. And she projected the feelings that she had towards the reindeer onto him ever since he gave her that cup of tea as she broke down similarly at the bar he'd worked at. And now he was sitting at the bar breaking down. And when he can't pay for his drink, the bartender gives it to him for free, just like he'd done with Martha all those years ago. And I don't actually think that the show is trying to tell you, don't do good deeds or else you'll get stalked. But it's just telling the story of Donnie Dunn. But Donnie Dunn is a fictional character. And at the start of the video, we talked about true crime miniseries. And if you watch the show, this in no way feels like a true crime documentary style series, as it has actors and actresses telling a story of toxic relationships and how they play out. But this is based on true events in the lives of real people. And this came to many viewers' surprise, including my own. I was like, what? Because the events that occurred in the show Baby Reindeer were based off of true events, according to Richard Gadd, who played Donnie Dunn in the show.
No way!
Which I think is awesome. The fact that he played his own character, not the fact that all that shit happened to him. And lots of events shown are from bits and pieces of comedy routines during the ordeals. And people naturally have tried to dissect which parts are referenced from the show to real life. People are really examining his comedy events. But what people don't understand is that things that went on in the show weren't exactly what happened in person. Some things are in the perspective of Richard Gadd from how he imagined them. Like people not laughing during his routines at all. He stated that he felt like no one was laughing, not that no one actually was. Because that shit was hard to watch in the show, man. It sucks watching a comedian bomb. And things like this just kind of went over people's heads since it's more complex and not just black and white, as he stated multiple times. On his website, under Baby Reindeer's announcement, he would say, "Stalking on television tends to be very sexed up. It has a mystique. It's somebody in a dark alleyway. It's somebody who's really sexy, who's very normal, but then they go strange bit by bit. But stalking is a mental illness. I really wanted to show the layers of stalking with a human quality I hadn't seen on television before. It's a stalker story turned on its head. It takes a trope and turns it on its head." On the date of release, April 11th, 2024, Netflix would post an interview with Richard Gadd, who talked about the performance and the show a bit, and about how he decided things would go down.
41,071 emails, 350 hours of voicemail, 744 tweets, 46 Facebook messages, 4 fake Facebook accounts, 106 pages of letters, and 1 cup of tea.
And that is a shitload of messages he received, like actual stalking. And his intention for the plot was not only telling a story, it's meant to be an autobiography that he wanted to share with an audience.
Ultimately, yeah, it is just an autobiographical story that I felt the need to tell.
And he wanted to have some comedic relief since it is so dark and serious that he felt it needed to have some laughter, which I appreciated during the show.
I really wanted the humor to provide sort of release during the series. You know, with a show like this that goes to the territory it goes to, I just knew that without laughter along the way, it could have been a very, very dark experience indeed. Yeah.
Not only is it reliving a traumatic portion of his life, but he was also having to act it out on camera in front of people, which is just crazy to me. His intention was hopefully that some of these scenes wouldn't be a dent in people's life, but bring them some peace to not let it define who they are. And he would go on to explain about being used by someone in the industry and struggling with not feeling belonged, and to have somebody that was cheering him on constantly, and that person being his future stalker as well. And this all kind of stemmed from his stand-ups not feeling up to par for him, being very, very mediocre and bombing constantly. Things just kind of kept spiraling after that. And he wanted to portray the Stalking character, Martha, as somebody who wasn't just an evil character, but somebody who was just mentally unwell and wasn't necessarily a bad person, which I did get from Martha's character. The actress who played her was absolutely amazing. She was extremely convincing as well. Jessica Gunning absolutely killed that character. And I think Richard played his own character very well too. And he wouldn't expect the amount of traction that the show got as well. I think it got to #1 watch show on Netflix within like a week of being up maybe. And I think it's just because a lot of people could relate to the vulnerability that he had in the story, and the fact that it was based off a true story. It kind of makes that line blurred and like being able to relate to it yourself. And I think it gave people a real sense of comfort, because I know it did for me. And Richard's only complaint about the success of the show is that he's kind of lost his anonymity. The fact he would say that on the flight over here to LA, the captain came back because he heard I was on the plane. He spoke to me and then the other pilot came back too. So that was quite surreal. I don't think of myself as famous. I don't believe it inside. So when people come up, I still find it quite strange. I couldn't relate to that more. Dude, anytime somebody comes up to me, which is almost every time I go out, which I'm very lucky for, but it's still very surreal. Like I don't feel famous at all, like remotely. I'm just like talking to a camera in my room right now like a psycho. But he's very, very grateful for it as well. And he's grateful that he has been able to help people find comfort in their traumas as well. But however, this comfort to get out his story had a side effect many expected: the alleged stalker coming out of the woodwork. However, no one planned for her to go on a platform like Piers Morgan. In a crazy turn of events, the real-life Martha went on Piers Morgan Uncensored, a popular British talk show, and denied that everything in the Netflix show was a lie. Shocking. She told Morgan that when fans found her real-life identity, because that's just what TikTok is nowadays, is just people snooping on everybody and being able to solve crimes, they began to send death threats and harass her online, which is terrible. I never condone that. That's horrendous. And she claims that she refused to watch the show because of it was misogynistic and that it was obscene what they were saying about her. And Morgan confronts her, saying that Richard Gadd has 350 voice messages, 41,000 emails, 744 tweets, 48 Facebook messages, and 106 letters.
That's simply not true.
And she would deny these claims and say she only sent a handful of messages.
How many do you think you sent him?
A handful?
And as the interview comes to a close, she is asked, if Richard Gadd is watching this, what would you say to him? She'd say, leave me alone and get a proper job, because she's Scottish. But even though she denies that she ever sent any of those messages, if you look at her old Twitter, which she is no longer active on, you will see that it has around 54,000 posts in only 1.5 years, dude. That's so many tweets. I don't even know how many that is a day. I'm not going to do the math, but it's a lot. And this is further evidence when she is active on social media, she is constantly posting and interacting with users. This also backs up the claim by Richard Gadd. She sent him 41,000 emails. If she is able to post 54,000 times in such a short time frame on one platform, it's very safe to assume she could repeat this behavior elsewhere online. And on her active Facebook on May 3rd, 2024, she posted 116 times, continuing her habits of spam posting on social media. This bitch has got nothing but time, man. That's crazy. You're lucky if I tweet like once a month. She also claims that she has never called Gadd and that he was also recording her at the bar. And on her active Facebook account, she's posting about Gadd and her interview with Morgan, just spewing all sorts of shit. You could pause to read them, but it's nonsense. And if you were to look at her post on her account since the release of Baby Reindeer, she literally only posts about Richard Gadd and the whole situation. Sounding familiar? And since her accounts have gone public, people are starting to notice that Fiona, her real name, claim posts are very racist as well. This interview would just expose the true nature of Fiona and would back up Gad's claims on her being an insane stalker, basically. She outright denied all claims of Gad having evidence, and when Morgan asks her if she wants him to reveal evidence he supposedly has against her, her demeanor changes and she just says no. So she's just like deny the entire interview. It's kind of hilarious to watch. I highly recommend you watch the whole thing. And that statement alone is just admission of guilt. If she really was innocent of all these claims, then she would have no problem asking Gad to release all of the evidence he has against her. Plain and simple. And in a separate interview with the Daily Record, a UK magazine, Fiona says that she is innocent and denies any claims that she was convicted or even went to jail for any charges. Additionally, she says that she is considering suing Netflix and Richard Gad for defamation. Just like in the show, Fiona still refuses to deal with her past trauma and her past actions, creating more problems for herself. And after the interview with Piers Morgan, naturally, she has become somewhat of a micro-celebrity now. If you look at her Facebook, where she actively posts a lot, you'll find numerous accounts claiming to be the real Fiona Harvey. The largest of these Facebook accounts having over 36,000 followers on it. And when Fiona claimed that she had never watched the show, she contradicts herself because on a post she made on Facebook on May 2nd, she would post 2 pictures of herself watching the miniseries with the description saying, "Fuck you, Richard Gad," which there are a lot of different Facebook accounts with her name, so it could not be her, but at this point, I'm gonna believe it's probably her. And on the same Facebook account, the users pulled photos from older accounts on Facebook and Twitter, and they just changed the descriptions to fit the current narrative surrounding Fiona. And she would post pictures of herself with the weirdest captions saying, "A picture of beautiful me, a picture of beautiful me. F you, Richard Gad." Like, just me feeling good about the Labour Party's demise. This just crazy, dude. But in conclusion, when Richard Gad had created his miniseries for Netflix, he wanted to share his story of being stalked, not feeling like he belonged, and surviving deep trauma as an adult. And his story did ultimately achieve what he wanted it to achieve, and the series did gain success. However, it also caused him to share the limelight with an actual stalker, Fiona Harvey. But despite her being on live television and being exposed basically by herself, I think God's vulnerability has been realized and appreciated far beyond what he could have ever imagined. He took the risk to show people his story, and people received it extremely well, finding comfort and liking his willingness to open himself up. And as for Fiona, she could no longer hide or be anonymous online, which I think is kind of hilarious. She will forever be associated with this viral miniseries and the events that took place within. Although God never intended for this to expose her in any way, she inadvertently did this to herself. And now God and any other victims of Fiona's can sleep better at night, knowing that she will never be able to do this again without facing serious consequences. Anyway, that is it for today's review, I guess, an update. If you guys want me to talk about any other shows or movies or anything like that, I really enjoyed doing this video, so let me know in the comments down below. But until then, like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you want to subscribe, and I will see your beautiful face in the next video, okay?